Good afternoon, everyone. Today is April 14th, and you're watching NuPath Live. My name is Dan Harrison, and I'm your host. We've got a special episode today that we're gonna refer to as our Patriots Day episode, and we will talk about that in a couple of minutes because this is Monday is a holiday and also known as Marathon Monday. We'll get to that in a bit. But before we do that, we are going to start a new segment which will help us introduce our first guest. This new segment that I'm calling, Where Are They Now? This is a thought that we'd had that there's some people that have left us that maybe would be fun to check in and see how they're making out in the big, brave world post-NuPath. So that's what we're going to do. And to introduce this next person, who most of you know, I'm going to do that now, that introduction now. So this person, first of her name, undefeated developer of talent, DDS champion, former director of Westford, protector of the vulnerable, mother of ambition, cultivator of growth, the unrelenting, yes, Miss Leigh Wilmot. Leigh Wilmot, it is such a delight to have you on NuPath Live today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, delighted to be here. So honored.
Now, that Game of Thrones sort of play on it, I know it's a little outdated, but hopefully most of our viewers will still remember that series and Daenerys Targaryen. Back in the day when you were here, do you know it's been 3 years this August?
I am stunned. I am so surprised to hear that. It feels like yesterday.
I can't believe. Of course, you held numerous positions at NuPath, coming to us first as a AmeriCorps member, that fresh-faced young girl who I remember when we talked, I didn't think you were interested in a job with NuPath because you talked about going to law school and you had these plans, and so I sort of just written you off, and then turns out you did want a job with us. You worked residential. You ended up then going on to become the director of Westford. You left us then to go to DDS. You were supervisor, clinical. I forget what your official title was with the state, and to their great chagrin and disappointment, you were on to bigger and better things after about a year or over a year, I guess you were with DDS, and now you have moved on as a talent development specialist. There's so many things I want to talk to you about. Oh, and I not to leave out that you were a dynasty member of our Club 50, raising well over $10,000 during the 5 years that you were here. You were all around just a role model for people to emulate. Built amazing teams. Am I embarrassing you yet? You were.
Come on, please.
Yeah. You never shy away from compliments. I know that. Praise. But seriously, you were somebody that I've been privileged to continue to maintain contact with since you left. And I like to keep young people around me. I feel like that kind of keeps me young. It keeps me informed. Talk to us about your journey. On top of it all, you had the pandemic during the past, couple of years, obviously. What's it been like since you've left NuPath? 3 years this August.
It has been a journey. So, and I'm incredibly grateful to have started my journey at NuPath. But it has been, I would say, a series of happy accidents. You know, the Bob Ross. I'm also dating myself and making that reference. Yeah. But, I never looked to leave NuPath. I honestly thought I would retire there. And was so incredibly privileged to have the type of mentors in you and Dan Lannon and a lot of other people there. And then it was approached with an opportunity really to kind of learn to become a clinical director in the state. And then absolutely loved to also build out that team there, manage that team, be able to kind of lead the charge in terms of the risk management for the Lowell area office as well. Build really great relationships with providers there and be able to kind of expand my impact and leadership reach. And then I went to grad school, and then I had truly what would amount to sort of a glorified internship at a company called Definitive Healthcare, and had the opportunity to consult to them externally to work with their leaders specifically on the topic of psychological safety, which is sort of a buzzword in corporate America right now, but very important to building healthy teams and honing your leadership skills. And after my stint there, I was very unexpectedly offered a position to do that full time by my current manager. So it was an unexpected and wonderful journey. Has been my
you of course you downplay so many of the details because it was a big time for you. And you said, "Oh, I went to grad school," as if it was just this, like went out for a coffee. You in fact graduated after it was organizational psychology, William James College. Of course, a lot of it was done online, virtually, right? But the kinds of things you used to tell me about some of the stuff you were reading and learning, and I always just think organizational psychology is such an interesting topic, and so I was so fascinated that this is what you were doing. So now being how your journey's taken you to where you're still kind of in healthcare, but doing it through a different, I don't know, avenue, if you will, or
yes, it's radically different, Dan. So I found that, and I'll tell you a bit about an inflection point I had at NuPath. I remember having a performance review shortly before I left with my then manager, Dan Lannon. And I remember talking to him about wanting to go to grad school or wanting to kind of further my education. But I was a little bit rudderless in terms of where to go. So I assumed that it made sense to get my degree in ABA, right, to become a clinician. That's what many of the folks in our field do. In our field, human services, I still consider my fields, and I still talk about.
And you could have been equally successful doing that. I mean, it was a real fork in the road for you, wasn't it? I mean, one choice, you're going a very different direction.
Well, it was, and it was so interesting. I'll never forget that conversation with him because, and I bet he would remember it differently or remember that he was softer to me about this feedback. But I remember telling him I was interested in an ABA master's, and he sort of leaned back and he looked at me and he was like, I don't know that you'd be great at that. And I was so shocked because I figured, well, I would imagine I could do it. And he said, no, don't take it like that. I don't think you would like clinical psychology or ABA. I think that you think more systematically, you love to lead, and you love to build teams. So if there's some kind of psychology of that, whatever that is, maybe get involved in that. And actually, Dan prompted me to, whether he knew it or not, start to research something called organizational psychology, which I hadn't honestly heard of until that conversation and kind of connecting the dots with him. But I realized that it was a much more natural fit for me. It let me lead. It let me kind of design teams, really focus on coaching and developing talent, developing the staff that I led and the peers that I consult to now in this current company. So that was for sure an inflection point, and I have NuPath's thoughtfulness to thank for that.
Well, luckily for us, you didn't leave us for school or anything like that. You left to go to DDS. So we, by the time you then had to tell DDS the bad news that you were moving on, I had already, we were out of mourning by then. I mean, I was still wearing a black armband. You understand?
Oh, please.
But we always, at the same time, really, it's very disappointing to lose somebody. Now, I don't like to use the word disappointing because it's almost a little, paternalistic or something. It's more just it's a loss. When you lose somebody that you've invested time and energy into and the person, but more than that, it's just we're lazy and we just don't want to have to think about replacing somebody good. I mean, no, it's not the only reason, but it always makes us proud, and we speak it, and you've heard me probably say it 1,000 times. We want to turn you out better than you came in, and if you don't acquire the skills that would prepare you for some sort of a advancement and a promotion, and especially to move out of a career. Now, obviously, it was far more than just what you learned at NuPath, but it's nice to think that we are offering that opportunity for people. Do you feel that you learn things in different not just about the clinical side of things with human services, but just other professional skills at NuPath as you were a young and just out of college person, when you started?
For sure. And it's funny that you mentioned that. I was thinking about this answer about what I really gained from working in human services in general, specifically at NuPath for the first 6 or 7 years of my career. But when I was interviewing at Definitive Healthcare, we are a software company. So we essentially sell data sets, and we sell really high-tech analytical solutions to big healthcare players. So pharmaceutical companies, medical device companies, healthcare IT companies are very interested in our solutions. So that's like a little bit of context. But I remember when I interviewed with them, I was interviewing with, I believe it was the director of sales training, because it was a panel interview. And he said something like, what's your greatest strength, or something, some sort of softball question, right? And I thought about it and I thought, I am unshockable and unoffendable because of my history in crisis management and human services. Like, it's impossible to surprise me. It's impossible to kind of rattle me to some extent. I think that human services, like, it really exposes you to people who are truly in need of supports and truly in crisis to some extent, especially in my role at DDS. So the equivalent of like a corporate crisis is nothing to me, because I've kind of cut my teeth in places where people really need support and really have genuine crises. So
and your day doesn't start out every morning trying to figure out how you're going to make 5 staff work for the entire day when you really need 12.
I know, and be partially in ratio. No longer does it. It does not.
For us to imagine what your day might be like for Leigh Wilmot now, how different it is. First of all, if I'm not mistaken, you, unless things have changed recently, but the last we spoke, you had been only ever virtual with your new role. Is that so you physically have not really, I think you've had a couple of gatherings maybe to meet some of these people in person, but by and large, you do your work, you consult, you're training sales people, aren't you? Like you're equipping. Is that a way to describe it? So you're
sure. Well, so a good way to describe organizational psychology is to look at it from a diagnostic perspective. So if certain teams, like inter-teams, are having issues with each other, or if there is any sort of leadership skills that need to be coached on an individual level, or even organizational health issues, we would call it a broad scale. That's what organizational psychologists do. So that would be my day-to-day. To answer your first question about remote work, we actually have returned to office in a flexible capacity at the beginning of March. So I'm really enjoying that. In fact, I'm going to be in the office tomorrow and the day after. And it's fun to get to see people in 3D. I really miss that from human services as well, the emphasis on the importance of being in person for certain things. But yes, we don't necessarily have the luxury of being in person all the time. We are an international company. We have acquired offshores in Sweden, most recently in Bangalore, India. So I need to be able to be accessible to them, and I need to be able to show up and create that container of learning and development in the same way, and figure out how to do that virtually, although it's not my instinct.
I think we're probably, pushing up on our time here, and I'm trying to figure out how to best to use it. The rest of it, I want to just wrap up the Definitive Healthcare. Am I right to say that you kind of got in on that? I mean, you're a wildly expanding and growing company, it sounds like, but you kind of got in, like you're still sort of emerging. Would you say I don't know if you'd call it a startup, but what's the right way to describe Definitive Healthcare?
Well, one of our core principles is being scrappy, which I love.
Ooh, I like that too.
Right? Yeah, we love scrappy, but we are over 800 in terms of our headcount now. So I don't know that startup is a fair assessment for us anymore. We're only a decade old, and we've gone through an IPO very successfully in September of last year. So we're playing with the big boys, but we're still scrappy. That's how I would describe us.
Well, it sounds like you are doing something that's well suited for you, and it sounds like it's an organization that cares deeply about the sort of quality of the worker experience. That's something I can understand, and investing in positions like yours to really be proactive and to think about that leadership development. I think that's a marvelous approach, and I think it's preparing you to come back to us
Oh
at
yeah,
some future point.
yeah.
When you've learned all kinds of wonderful, new and exciting, rare things that you can impart upon us. Leigh, what would you say in the last minute or so that we have? What would you say to somebody that's maybe starting out in their career, maybe is where you once were, maybe working, assistant manager of a group home?
Mhm.
Um, any advice for the upwardly mobile career person?
For the new career professional in particular, this is advice that I often give to emerging talent, emerging high potential and high performing folks in my current organization. But it's that now is the time to take risks, probably between that age of 20, 35. You might not be necessarily settled in terms of financial obligations yet. You have an opportunity to recreate yourself endlessly. And I would argue even later into your career too, but it is much easier to take the risk, expand your mindset, and don't limit yourself when it comes to your career trajectory. Do what makes you happy and do what you're good at. And the confluence there will mean a very happy career and a very happy life.
Beautifully put, Leigh. And I'd add one thing to that, and also it never occurs to you that you could fail. So you could remain a wild optimist because you're still early in your career. You are a delight to speak with. I'm glad we maintained contact, and I hope we do for as long as you'll have us. And I hope you'll come back again sometime soon to talk to us. We wish you all the best. Happy Patriots Day, and
Happy
we'll talk to you
Patriots
again
Day.
soon, okay?
All right.
Bye, Leigh. Thanks so much. Well, it was great to talk to Leigh. I always enjoyed her very much when she was here, still do, and it's nice to see she's doing so well. All thanks to NuPath, of course. Okay, I promised you we were going to talk about Patriots Day. This is going to be our Patriots Day episode. We have a special guest coming in the second half of this broadcast. But first, I thought it would be good to set the stage a bit and talk about what is Patriots Day. I know it's that day that we always look forward to in April. It happens to be the third Monday of April every year, and this is a holiday that has been around for a while. It was first put into effect in 1834 by one of our governors of years past, Governor Frederick Greenhalgh. And there was another holiday in April called Fast Day on the state calendar that the governor was looking to replace. This was a carryover from our puritanical ancestors. And check this holiday out. Fast days were common in the early days of the colony, some of them dating back to 1700s. And these were days where you focus was on public humiliations, fasting and prayer, proclamations that would tell its citizens to not eat and to pray to avoid plagues, earthquakes, crops, failures, etc. Far cry from the summer picnicking and the fun activity in the city that we now think of when we think of Patriots Day. Anyway, we set that aside, and this governor was inspired by Massachusetts' role in and courage of our forefathers in fighting for freedom and the onset of the Revolutionary War. And a special date, April 19th of 1775, is the date that commemorates the battles of Lexington and Concord. And in Ralph Waldo Emerson's famous Concord hymn, he says, "By the rude bridge that arched the flood, their flag to April's breeze unfurled, here once the embattled farmer stood and fired the shot heard round the world." That's taken from a plaque down at Old North Bridge. Anyway, so we've got our Patriots Day, commemorating our forefathers. A couple of years after that, inspired by the revival of the marathon race at the inaugural Games of the Modern Day Olympics in Athens in 1896, Boston decided they were going to have a marathon race. And it must have just really cured a particular itch that people around these parts had, because it became in some ways, almost the centerpiece of the Patriots' Day holidays. And since that time, the Boston Marathon has become the world's oldest annual marathon, ranking one of the best known in the world. And until 2020, because of the pandemic, it had continuously ran through World War One, the Great Depression, World War II, and every war since. It's one of the elite marathons of the world marathon majors, and these are 6 cities that host marathons: Tokyo, Boston, London, Berlin, Chicago, and New York. The first running of the marathon, 15 athletes. This year, there are over 30,000 registered runners that will be competing, and probably attracting more than 500,000 spectators in Boston. Why are we talking about this? Well, now we are going to talk to our second guest, Greg Morris, who is running in the Boston Marathon this year. And we're going to talk to him and find out what the heck is his problem. Greg Morris, welcome to NuPath Live.
Hi, Dan Harrison. How are you? Thank you for having me.
So what the heck is your problem? You want to do this to your body to run a marathon, and not just any marathon, but the mother of all marathons, the Boston Marathon. Talk to us about what brought you to this point. I know it's been your dream, and I know you've run other marathons. You're an avid runner. This is something outside of ordinary. This is something pretty special, which is why we had you on today. You're on every week, but you're usually out of view. Talk to us about the process and how you made it possible.
Yeah, thank you. So as you mentioned, I ran one previous marathon. That was the Cape Cod Marathon. That was a few years ago now, pre-pandemic. And, as you mentioned, I always had this dream of running Boston. I've been a spectator. I've gone to the marathon many, many times. My brother tends to run it every year. And I thought, coming out of this thing, why not check something off the bucket list when I still feel healthy enough and good enough to put my body through this and see what it's like, get to experience it.
Now you're I know that in order to run, you have to you could either do it as part of a team, raising money, and I believe you're doing yours through Dana-Farber, raising money for cancer, or having the qualified run. So by going the route of having to raise money, you had to raise $7,500. I know you exceeded that and raised actually $10,000, which congratulations. You've learned a thing or two, I suppose, from your fundraising activity for the walk. I know you did a spin class. Talk to us about what it was like getting connected with the team, and it was a pretty special day when you found out you could run it, right? I mean,
Sure.
A lot of people want to run it, and not everybody gets a chance to do that.
Yeah, so I thought, the time qualifying thing is not something I'm interested in even trying to do. But I had this thought that, what charity can I connect myself with and raise money for to become, eligible to run a marathon. And my mother-in-law, she actually works for Dana-Farber, and obviously we all know many people that are affected by cancer. All of us are. So I thought, what better cause than hooking up with Dana-Farber. The thought was, though, can I really raise $7,500? And as you mentioned, we blew it out of the park. We're over $10,000 right now raised, and people are just amazing. They people in my life, I'm continually humbled and grateful for people supporting me, but also obviously supporting something much bigger than me, and that's this cause. So I had to submit an application. I had to be accepted. I had to lay out a detailed plan about how we were gonna raise that much money. I fell back on the walk in terms of the strategy. What kind of mini event?
Could you sell vacation time? Oh, maybe not in this case, huh?
No, I tried, but that was not an acceptable form of donation. No. So.
So that represents hard work on every level, physically, to be disciplined, and in the training, and then also that you have to raise that kind of money, which is a significant thing. But I know you did a lot of creative things too. You had a spin class that people paid, the proceeds to go to the walk, and some other things. As far as training goes, I know you run all the time, but tell us how a person goes about when they made the decision that they want to do this to themselves.
Well, I mean, a lot of people get running coaches, or they run as part of teams. Dana-Farber had something where a former champion actually would kind of hook up with you and help you craft a plan. I didn't do any of that because I have kind of a set routine about, how I exercise and try to stay in shape. And, Google is amazing. You say, okay, at the time, I think it was probably about 20 weeks out or something from the marathon, and what is the training plan? So I laid it out that way, and, you gradually increase your miles, and, I peaked at 22 miles 2.5 weeks ago, and it's been a taper down since then. So you want the strategy is to get your legs nice and rested for race day, but yet still stay active and make sure you're in a good spot for the race. My goal is to run under 4 hours. 3 hours and 47 minutes is my actual goal. That's a specific pace, but we'll see.
What does that work out to a mile?
That works out to 8 minutes and 54 seconds a mile.
Oh, Lord God.
So, which is very doable. If you have a wind at your back, it's a cool day, you feel good. No, for me,
and you carbo loaded. You have to carbo load.
Yes, you have to carb load.
That much I know. I can be your carbo coach. Your
It's tricky though, because this year it falls the day after Easter. So Easter Sunday, I already told Jen, my wife, that don't count on me for any support, any work on that Easter Sunday. We host with my mom, and I said, yeah, count me out. I'm not going to be a team player that day.
Yeah. So what are you going to do instead?
So I'll be there.
You're just going to rest?
I'm going to rest, and actually, this is it's my plan. This will be my only time running Boston, most likely. So actually rented a hotel room. Dana-Farber has a block right in Copley. I'm really looking forward to kind of soaking in the whole experience, going this weekend, getting my number. And the plan is to spend a couple days in Boston and really soak in the experience. So Easter night, after the festivities are over, I'm going to head into town and try to get ready.
Greg, what do you... I'm sure you'll appreciate any NuPath person that can come and cheer you on. Is there anything unusual you're going to be wearing, like a red feather from your head, or like something that would, would signify you among all the others, the crush of all the other people?
Well, no, I mean, I'm going to be wearing a Dana-Farber singlet, which is kind of like the uniform. It's a light blue, and I'm just looking at something. So
singlet, like the. Is that what you said?
I mean, it's a light blue, like, tank top, but I'll have a shirt on underneath it, and I'll have a...
Oh, not like a wrestler singlet. Like, I'm thinking that's a pretty funny costume.
That would be bold. I think that maybe I should take that approach.
So everybody look for the grown man in a singlet running down the road. That would be great.
My number is 24,408, 24408. So, the marathon has an app that makes it very easy to track people if you're interested.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Well, I, on behalf of NuPath, want to wish you well. I'm sure you're going to succeed. My experience with you have succeeded at everything you put your mind to, and so you can be sure that you're going to succeed at this too. You know what? You got this.
We got this, baby. We got this. Because it's not just me, it's a whole bunch of people who supported and helped me, you included. So, thank you.
Well, we're very, very proud of you. It's a noteworthy accomplishment, one that you should be very, very proud of. And Yeah, I hope you're able to show up for work next week.
I'll
No.
be.
Yeah, sure. You'll probably take a couple of days off, but knowing you'll be bouncing around here the next day.
Thank you, Dan.
Greg, thanks so much for appearing on the other side of the camera for this episode. It was great to talk to you, and well, wish you all the best.
My pleasure. Bye.
Bye bye. All right, everybody, that's a wrap. Have a safe and wonderful Patriots Day. Good luck to Greg Morris. We'll see you next week, and we got this, guys. Bye.